What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here for another episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Should be joined by a guest very shortly. He's a guest that you are very familiar with on the show, my buddy Phil Munson, to preview this Bills versus Ravens AFC Divisional playoff matchup between, obviously, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. This is the biggest game of the Buffalo Bills franchise in the last, I'd say, 25 years. We got Phil joining me right here, right now. I want to get Phil locked in here on the stream. Phil, thanks for joining me, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I had to kind of rush around a little bit there, and I wanted to at least show a little bit of Bill. I had to throw on the old Stevie jersey, so just to represent 7-0 in this jersey. By the way, 7-0. The streak is alive with this jersey. So just to let all the fans know.
As long as the streak stays alive, because if the streak stays alive, we're 1 week closer to the Super Bowl, which is crazy.
Yes,
crazy.
Huge.
So how are you feeling heading into this game? I want to get your take. Just, are you feeling confident, or are you feeling a little bit nervous?
I feel actually I'm kind of level. I'm not swaying one way or the other. I've heard so many takes this week. There haven't really been anything that's been bad against the Bills or good against, good for the Bills. I just feel, you saw the Kyle Brandt video, the hype video.
Right.
I think this could be the perfect week to get a lot of monkeys off the back for the Bills. They've proven time and time again this year to get rid of old opinions of the Bills, and today's really a big step forward for them to get rid of one more, which is let's get back to the AFC Championship against probably Kansas City. I don't want to count out the Browns, but it would be nice for the Bills, this fan base, just to get back. So my confidence level, I don't want to say it's high, but I don't want to say it's low, because I feel like this is a different team than what Baltimore faced last year. And Josh Allen's playing out of his mind, and if he keeps playing the way I think he can play, the Bills have a good shot at winning this game. It's going to be close, but I really feel like the Bills have a good shot at winning this game.
I do too, and I think that listening to other podcasts throughout the week, listening to Tyler Dunn's podcast, the Go Long TD, Jim Manos, his co-host, said Josh Allen is just playing at such a high level right now that it's very tough to even pick against the Buffalo Bills, just due to that. Like, when your quarterback is playing at that high of a level consistently week in, week out, it's extremely tough to go against that team. And I think when we get into the nitty-gritty of the game here, I will say that this is probably the toughest matchup that the Bills have faced all season long, and it's coming at the perfect time, because if the Bills get past this one, they do belong in that AFC title game. What are your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens? In my opinion, they're the toughest team Buffalo has faced all season long. What do you think of that statement?
I feel like last week I don't think the Bills, I don't think they fully came out the way they should have. And that's leading into what I'm going to say about Baltimore. I feel like the Bills have beat teams that are on their level, maybe better, maybe worse at certain times this year. Seattle was flying high when the Bills beat them.
Right.
Arizona, say what you want to say. At that time, Arizona was playing, pretty well, and Kyler Murray is just as shifty as Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson is a shifty quarterback. He's hard to tackle. He's hard to take down. They are not Lamar Jackson, but kind of what I said to one of my buddies last night, who's a Steelers fan. I was talking to him for a couple minutes. I said, the biggest difference between those quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson right now, Lamar Jackson is not as accurate. He threw that pass last week to Butler, and I was like, that's not a pass an NFL quarterback should be making.
Right.
And he had nobody. He wasn't getting pressure. When I say it was a nice dart, it was a nice dart, but Butler was just standing there like, all right, he just had to jump and make so if you can get Lamar into situations like that, make him almost feel too comfortable in the pocket, he might make a mistake like that. And the Bills are more apt than Tennessee to one-up you on those mistakes. I feel like, yes, you're right. This is probably the best team that they're going to face this year. But at the same time, Lamar Jackson, sometimes when he's overconfident, I think this was mentioned too on a couple podcasts and on the NFL Network. Sometimes when he is too confident, that's where he starts making mistakes. I don't feel like he's as good of a passer as Allen or any of those guys. Yeah, he can hit the deep ball. He's a better. This could be controversial. He's a better version of Tyrod Taylor. He's shiftier and he's a little bit more accurate on his deep throws. Has a better arm. To me, sometimes Jackson, like I think 5 or 6 years down the road, he might be a little bit more accurate. But there's something about him that does not. I watched him at Louisville because I'm a Syracuse fan. To me, he's your new age quarterback. But I feel like if the Bills can just, when I say contain, they just need to make him make decisions with his arm rather than his legs. And if they do that tonight, I think the Bills have a good shot.
As far as the defensive game plan, like this is the nitty gritty of the game. How is this Buffalo Bills defense going to attack this Ravens offense when Buffalo's run defense has been suspect, in moments throughout the season? Some moments throughout the season they've showed up. But, you take the Chiefs game against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they made him look like he was Barry Sanders that day. And then you take even the Tennessee Titans game. Although Derrick Henry had 2 touchdowns in that game, they were inside of like 30 yards, inside the 30-yard line. Outside of that, attempts yards-wise, it was like 16 carries for 40 yards. They held Josh Jacobs to under 50 yards. So I think that this Bills run defense, although it's a little suspect throughout moments in this season, I think this Bills run defense, I should say, is much better than what people think. But even so, I mean, the run game of the Ravens is probably the best run game in all of football. You have Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, even at 30%, is better than some of these running backs in the league currently. And, of course, Lamar Jackson. And it goes to your point, and you touched on it here. How do you stop Lamar Jackson? You don't stop him, but you can definitely contain him in terms of his running lanes, finding the running lanes. I hope that this Buffalo Bills defense allows Lamar Jackson to survey the field. If we can do that with Lamar being a below average arm that he has, I think we're going to force him to make some mistakes. What do you think of that take?
Yeah, absolutely. You also have to go into effect too that last year they had Hunter Hurst. I believe that's his name. It's Hurst is his last name. They had him as a tight end last year on top of, I believe it's Mark Andrews, I believe, is the tight end. That's their big tight end now. They had 2 tight ends last year. The Bills were notoriously last year really bad when it came to if you even had one really good tight end, they were not able to cover very well because they only had Milano or Edmonds on them. He threw 3 touchdowns, 2 of which were 2 tight ends last year. So he's missing that. The running backs are a little bit different this year. I feel like, again, if you can contain those running backs, and when I say contain, yeah, they might pop off a 10, 15-yard run. I don't want Bills Mafia to go absolutely crazy with that because maybe that 10, 15-yard run, maybe they're set up within the 30 or 40-yard line on the other end of the field. I also want to make a good point. Tucker has not looked like Tucker this year. He's not.
Right.
I
was just going to mention that.
Last week, he boinked that one off the post, and he just had like that look of, like, I know he hit a late one. I get that. He came back, but I feel like Bass is on his game right now. He is confident. You have a confident kicker. Last week, I do not think the Bills, special teams too, that's going to play a huge role in today's game. Field position. If you make Baltimore have to, with that run game, have to march the length of the field, it's not going to be easy for them because you have to pass at some point. So you force Lamar to pass more often than not. You contain the run game. If they get 200 yards on the ground today combined, and it's only getting them field goals or field goal attempts, not really touchdowns, fine, whatever, because Josh Allen's going to be able to get down the field. They have great corners. I get that. But they do not have enough because Cole Beasley already said this week he feels way better than what he did the week before. Stephon Diggs, he's better. They both practiced more this week than they did the week before. Diggs has shown time and time again against good corners this year, even great corners, that if you wake him up, he's on. And
Yeah.
Allen trusts him. And now Gabe Davis, with his trust, with him toe tapping last week, Allen's gonna. If you get Allen out of the pocket, he's gonna throw wherever he wants to throw, and he has more confidence in his receivers than what he ever did. I just think contain their run. If they get yards, they get yards. But keep them out of the end zone. Make them kick field goals the whole game. If you can do that.
I want to interject what your point is on the corners because I put it on the banner here.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the corners, that's the one thing that kind of concerns me too. Is this Bills offense has been hot, but we're going up against a team that has a great run game. We've touched on that. But Buffalo is also going up against a team with a solid secondary. And Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are probably two of the most physical corners to be on one team. But then again, they're going up against Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis. And I love the fact that the Bills have added talent to this roster within like the last week and a half with guys like Kenny Stills and Devonta Freeman. I think that was a big question heading into this one. What are the Bills going to do being that Zach Moss is out? Well, Freeman's been playing with the first team on the practice leading up to this game. So, I hope that Buffalo kind of actually combats the Ravens' run game offensively with establishing their own run game a little bit. Granted, they are a passing team, but we got to keep the ball away from Lamar Jackson. And I think if we can keep him playing from behind early, like if we come out like we did against Indy, against this Ravens team, I think that does pose a little bit of trouble for Buffalo. They came out a little slow. I think they're going to come out a little bit faster if they do get the ball to open the game, or even if they get the ball on the deferred coin toss. I hope that they come out quick and attack this Ravens defense, and I hope that they can shut down this Ravens run game because it is a fearsome force.
Yep, definitely. The one other thing that we forget about, John Brown. This was talked about on Joe's podcast, Joe Biscuglia and Matt Fairburn. They were talking about how John Brown and also on our boy Matt Farino and Ryan Talbot, they also talked about that John Brown burned Humphreys when he was playing with the Ravens all the time in practice. Now, I know that was a couple of years ago, but both of them are 2 years older. What says you about John Brown possibly being in the slot, possibly going against Humphreys? Because he's their nickel corner, and they're down. When you get down to their fourth corner, I can see a lot of good plays coming here. There's a lot of depth, and I know those two corners are very opportunistic. But at the same time, when you have that many receivers that can kind of make a play whenever they want to, I feel like we just have there's a lot of opportunity there. From what it sounds like, too, TJ Yeldon probably is going to get the nod today. And I really think TJ Yeldon, a lot of people laugh because he's got like that Tyrannosaurus Rex like neck, and he just looks so weird out there. But the guy can catch out of the backfield.
They haven't had that threat, really.
They haven't. I mean, Singletary recently has been doing that, and he's good at the one move and go. But if you get Yeldon in open space and he holds onto the ball, I want to make that perfectly clear because him and Singletary have a habit of kind of being loosey-goosey with the ball. If he can get out in open space, and when you say establish the run game, we can establish the run game with a short passing game. Because if you force Baltimore to come up a little bit more, if they're seeing that those underneath routes coming in, because Josh Allen, he's proven time and time again, you play zone, okay, I can beat that. You have the blitz, I can beat that. Man, I can beat that. He's beaten everything this year. It just depends on what Baltimore is going to give him at first. And Buffalo has been good coming out, making adjustments. So if you can find a weakness early and force Baltimore to make the adjustment, go right ahead, because you're probably going to even come up here with the Ravens blitzing attack. There's a whole lot to this Ravens defense, including their corners and their blitzing attack. If Allen can start beating those things, even if it's just short dump offs for 10, 15 yards a pop, I think the Bills have a good handle here. But again, it really just depends if we can make the adjustments on the fly as well as after the half.
Right. This game, I think, the way I picture the game going down, like if I'm kind of predicting the flow, if you will, of the game, right, Phil? The first half, I think it's going to be a slow-paced first half. I don't think these teams are going to come out guns blazing. I
Right.
think the second half, though, could potentially be one of the highest-scoring second halves of any game this season. And, not to give away my score prediction, but I do think this will be a high-scoring game. I want your thoughts on that. Do you see this as more of an offensive battle between two young stud quarterbacks in their own right, in Lamar and Josh Allen? Or do you see this as somewhat of a X's and O's, field position battle between the Bills and Ravens?
It's just good. It's like you just said, it's going to be a tale of two halves. The first half, I think they're going to kind of feel each other out. I got a feeling both me and you are going to get, and probably a lot of other Bills fans and reporters are probably going to scratch our heads at what Dable's trying to do, because he might just hand the ball off 3 times in a row, a couple times like he did last week for whatever reason when you had the passing game like you did. But I think it's going to be a feeling out process, because Dable's going to try to figure out, okay, what is Baltimore doing? Are they blitzing us? So we're going to run so that we trap them, have them coming up. And then I think it's going to be a slow, methodical pace. It might not be that first drive. We might not get that touchdown, but it might come later on. Now, I think the Bills' defense, they're the opposite of what the Bills' offense is sometimes. I always find that their first drive of the game against the other team, they usually drive the field a little bit, especially lately. Once they drive the field, then the Bills make adjustments, and that's when Leslie Frazier starts to make adjustments. Like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. They're running the ball out of this side, and then they make adjustments as the half goes on. So it could, like you said, it's probably going to be something low scoring in the first half. Maybe one team gets 2 touchdowns in the first half. It's like a 14-10 game, something like that. And then the second half, I feel like, they're going to make those adjustments and their offenses might start rolling. I'm hoping for the Bills it's a little bit more on their end. And, hey, Josh Allen has been lucky lately with winning the coin tosses, and he's been deferring each and every time, the old New England playbook.
It is. So it's smart, though. So it's smart.
I defer anytime in Madden. I defer. Mm-hmm. I want the ball back in the second half. That way I can march down the field. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a slow pace the first half for both teams, and then we're probably going to be pulling our hair out at some points in the first half, wondering what Dable's doing. But he especially lately has been watching to see what the defense is giving them, and then I think he lets Josh know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? And then you notice that's when Josh starts getting on a roll. So it's going to be what Baltimore's defense gives us, and then in the second half, I think it's going to really start to roll down the hill. Hopefully more for the Bills, though, but don't be surprised if it's a gunslinging, second half.
Right, and you go back to, as you touched on at the beginning of the show, that first matchup last season was a close game. And the one guy on this entire team, like if you were to ask me, who is the one player on this team, on the Baltimore Ravens that worries me the most, people are going to think I'm nuts. But you go week to week this year, the one thing that this Bills defense has had a tough time doing all season long, covering the tight end. Mark Andrews is a beast. He's extremely underrated. He's a guy that within the last 2-3 years, he's put himself in the upper echelon as far as the position with Travis Kelce, and some of the other guys up there, Darren Waller. I would say Waller, Kelce, Hunter Henry, Mark Andrews. Those are like my top 4 if I were to put those together right now.
Yep,
if I'm forgetting one, maybe late term Gronk. I don't know. Maybe that's just the homer in me. I don't know. But Mark Andrews is a guy that I think is going to have a good game today. And if he has a great game, just that one player, if Mark Andrews has like 2 receiving touchdowns in this game, I'm worried, because that means Lamar Jackson was able to move out of the pocket, was able to extend plays and find that big target. And last week, Matt Milano had a real tough time covering Jack Doyle, and Burton out there was a little bit of a mismatch problem, as well as Michael Pittman. And the good thing about the Ravens, though, is that they don't have a Stephon Diggs. I like Hollywood Brown. I think he's a good player, but don't you think it benefits Buffalo that they don't really have much of a wide receiver on this Ravens team outside of Hollywood Brown?
Yeah, that was another point I was going to make. I feel like the Ravens would love to have John Brown back and have the 2 Browns, because they don't have a lot of depth. Like I was alluding to earlier, with they don't have their 2 tight ends anymore. So last week you saw, I feel like Indianapolis had a much more deep team when it came to their offensive weapons because they had T.Y. Hilton. They had, I'm forgetting a couple of guys. They had
Pittman
they had
and
Jack.
Burton
Yep.
and Doyle, and
Yes,
yeah,
they
and the
had guys
running
that could.
back too.
Oh yeah, they had two running backs that were great. Their only issue was Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers played out of his mind last week. Like if you rewatch the film, he played one of his, if not best games of the season against the Bills. Now
Do you think
that's
that
what
was his last? Do you think that was his last sidebar? But
I mean, I love
I
Phil
think it
Rivers.
was.
I love him. I feel like that should be his swan song. 'Cause, I mean, the dude was
Yeah,
undefeated in wild card rounds, and then he like after that, like he put his best game out. Like you have nothing. He has nothing to be not proud of in his career. Yes,
right.
he didn't win a Super Bowl, but he's just one of those quarterbacks that like he never had the team to get him there. And there's a couple
Mhm.
times where he had the chance, but I just think it would be a good idea for him to go out because that game was fine. It's not like he went down and like he threw a game like interception, a game breaking interception.
Right.
No, he played really really well last week. But yeah, no, I mean getting back to this game, I really feel like they don't have the depth offensively. They have the running back, they have the run game, but the pass game, it's not like how it was last year. He doesn't. He has Mark Andrews is his safety net. If Milano and or Edmonds can at least stick on him well enough, even if there's going to be a third down play. I already know there's going to be a third down play. Mark, he's gonna hit him down the middle, and we're gonna all get mad. It's going to happen. It happens every game. It happens with most teams. So I already know what's going to happen, but I don't think Mark Andrews can take over the game. The person who can take over the game is Lamar Jackson and those running backs, like Gus the Bus. Like that's what I'm worried about tackling. Like they got to tackle this game. You got to tackle, and if you notice, they brought up Dane Jackson, who he's a heavy run tackle.
I love Dane Jackson. I loved that pick. I remember when they picked him, being that he's at Pitt. You can keep track of these colleges like UB, Pitt, some of the colleges in the MAC as well because of UB. But Pitt's one of those colleges that I always keep my eye on. Dan Marino, Van Pelt, who I threw a shout out to last week. Shout out to Alex Van Pelt too. What he's been doing with Cleveland has been phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I can't believe. I mean, stepping into what he had to do last week because of like the whole coaching COVID, like all that mess.
Right.
Like, hats off to him. And that's a different like Pittsburgh. Other than Ben Roethlisberger, he really didn't. What a bunch of poor losers they are, man. That was. I told my buddy that too. I can't believe how like Claypool.
I haven't even talked about the other games. I haven't even talked about those. I'm still just in such shock that Pittsburgh just fell flat on their faces like that, and really they have no rhyme or reason for it. They weren't lacking anything; they just fell on their face. It's pretty weird.
It was weird. Well, you know what? It's a time coming. It's just kind of like how the Patriots were this year. It was a long time coming. I don't have the hate for Pittsburgh like I do but like there's a lot of people that hate Pittsburgh, and for them to fall flat on their face against a division rival like the Browns are just like the Bills in that division. Yeah. They're everybody's underdog story. So
that's a great point.
Wouldn't it be something though if Cleveland somehow knocks off Kansas City and then we like Cleveland versus Buffalo in the AFC Championship? That would be. I want to see Kansas City versus Buffalo. That's. I also have said, and this is, before we get to the predictions and stuff, the one thing I will say, I rather see Buffalo versus Kansas City because I think Baltimore versus Kansas City. That's just I don't like that matchup. It's just I feel like Kansas City is going to run them over again. That's just my opinion.
You feel like Kansas City runs over Baltimore?
Oh, they did earlier in the year. It'll happen again. Pat Mahomes will tear them apart. The Tyreek Hill will burn half their corners.
It's so weird because styles make fights in MMA and in boxing, but matchups in football could be completely I think Baltimore is a problem for Buffalo. I'm going to say it. They are a very, very tough matchup for Buffalo. Whether that means the Bills win or lose, I'm obviously going to pick the Bills to win. Spoiler alert. But I think Buffalo is better against Kansas City than any other team in the AFC. And I think that the Browns pose a threat to Kansas City. It's so weird how different teams make up different matchups. I think Kansas City is is a great team, obviously, but I think Buffalo is a much different team than the team that KC faced. What was it, week 5? What was it?
Yeah, and that was
A
the weird
month
week.
ago.
That was the weird week. You got to remember that was the
Yeah.
Tennessee week. Then, like, because we were game planning for both. Like, I keep bringing that up to people. I'm like, I don't think you understand how McDermott's head works. Sometimes he
Yeah.
needs to be. He's focused on one thing. If he has to focus on two different teams, I don't think he's as well planning. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
Right.
game plan wise, I don't think it worked out as well. So, yeah, no. But I have a good prediction. But I'll let you because I know we gotta get to those.
Well, yeah, and in case, the show's usually well, stretched out a little bit, but 4 minutes from now, the biggest news in MMA is about to drop. Dana White, and you guys know that I cover mixed martial arts on the show, so Dana White's about to announce what's next for Khabib Nurmagomedov. I do want to get to some comments before we get our score predictions in. I want to give a shout out to Jordan Miller and Eric Ellis, who are two good buddies of mine that have supported the show since virtually day one. So I'm going to read their comments. Eric says, Bills also had bad field position during the Colts game a few times, starting at your 5 multiple times or inside the 10. I think the best field position, to Eric's point, was at the 12 in the first half, starting field position. So that's very tough, as Eric says, to get a rhythm going. And that goes to the coin toss, to be honest. If Buffalo wins the coin toss and we're getting the ball first and we're starting at our own 25, that's already an improvement compared to what happened last week. So, so that'll be interesting. And then you can piggyback off of this one. Jordan says, biggest problems will be Lamar, of course. J.K. Dobbins is the back to be most afraid of with 7 or 8 straight TDs, and Edwards complements him so well. Our offensive line needs to be able to protect Josh like warriors out there and allow us to play our game. We can handle this. I like that take. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the offensive line needs to play just a little bit better than what they did last week because there are a couple of really good defensive linemen that we're going to be going against today. If we can contain, the pressure coming at us, and let Josh Allen do his thing. He needs to get outside the pocket and make a couple plays his own with his arm. That's fine because he's been proven to beat people.
Let Josh be Lamar a little bit. Let him be a little bit Lamar Jackson. Flashy.
He's shown that he can run a bootleg, and then last week with that freaking toss to Knox, absolutely. I'm very confident, very 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 confident.
That was great. Yeah, I agree with you. So let's get to the score predictions here. I'm gonna let you give your score prediction first. Let me let you sound off. How do you see this game going? What do you think the final score will be for this Buffalo Bills Baltimore Ravens AFC divisional round matchup?
So I am put the predictor head on me. I'm going to say the Bills. It's going to be late. It's going to be seconds left. Justin Tucker has had his way with hitting game-winning field goals, but it's Tyler Bass's turn. 31-28 Bills. Last second field goal, 50-plus yards. Tyler Bass has arrived.
Wow. That would cement Tyler Bass as one of the top 3 kickers in the league. I'm going to. I mean, he hasn't missed a field goal. Put this in perspective for people. He hasn't missed a field goal since week 8, and it was a 61-yarder that he missed. He has been that hot ever since. So, man, that would send chills down my spine if that happened. My score prediction, I think this is going to be a shootout. I'm going to go 34-31 Bills. I think the Bills are actually going to get a late touchdown in this one to get the victory. And I'm going to give the credit to Gabe Davis, the rookie that could quite possibly be the number 2 receiver on this team next year. And I think he's actually the number 2 receiver on this team currently. When you look at Diggs and what he's done, being the wide receiver 1, Davis slotting in at the number 2, Beasley's the slot guy. John Brown, I don't think he's really been healthy all season long. I hope we see a solid version of John Brown in this game, to your point. But Phil, man, I can't wait for this game. This is like a big moment, just like last week was a big moment. Now it's like a snowball effect here in Buffalo. You're rolling the snowball; it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger with each win. And I hope it continues, man. I'm hoping that this isn't the last pregame show that we put out here for Bills fans. But thanks for joining me, buddy, on such short notice. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. Hey, go get to that UFC. I'm getting notifications now, so go get that going.
Dude, this is like the equivalent of like the LeBron decision, whether Habib Nurmagomedov is actually coming back or not. And if he decides to come back, I think a bomb is about to drop in terms of the MMA world. So we'll see what happens. But
Good.
Go Bills, man! Enjoy the game and stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
See you. That was my buddy Phil Munson joining me on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I got to wrap this up. We got some big news to dive into for mixed martial arts, so stay tuned. Go Bills.